Hey, sorry about that. That was my technical difficulty. As you can tell, there's no Professor P. He had problems with, he had issues making tonight's live because of the scheduling thing that he had with his family. So I had booked Andy Wood, and then Andy messaged me right before the live, letting me know that he wasn't going to be able to make it. So tonight I'm on alone. I'm flying solo, and hopefully we can I have enough material to keep us going for the next 2 hours. I'd like to do that, but I am having a thunderstorm. So since everything is stacked up against me, including my own thumbs up, we'll start at the top and get the night rolling. Hopefully you guys have some questions and some fun things to talk about, because I'm going to try to wing it here myself tonight. Let's see. I guess the intros are, I'll start from the top. Danny Boyd is here. LP94 Lars. Miss Cat G is here saying, hey, y'all, won't be able to see the live today, but have fun. No problem. You didn't miss out on much. Not yet. Okay, Buff Del Campo is here and ready to go. By the way, I'm probably going to help Buff out here soon. We're going to go pick up a parts car for him in Arkansas, so that'll be pretty kind of cool. Let's see. Mean Street Mopar is here. Frizzell Racing, Bobby Frizzell. Dean Stevenson from way down under in the New Zealand territory. Okay. KS Skyhawk is here and says, ready with questions. So it's coming. Let's see. Vintage Adventure Drives. Fab Race Mod Repeat. Hello from Northeast Dragway. Matthew. Hi, everyone. How you doing, Matthew? Thanks for stopping by. Let's see. And then Vintage Adventure Drive says, I just saw the thumbnail has a Starsky and Hutch car. I've got a 76 Grand Torino myself. Yeah, I love doing that. Before I guess 2023, I used to have some pretty good fun with the thumbnails, and I would take all old memorable automotive shows and movies, and I would graft myself and Professor P into the pictures. But that's going to be tonight, what we're talking about, pictures. Maybe I'll pull up some of those pictures and we can go through them and you can guess what they are, but it won't be too hard for a majority of them. Okay, but I do have a plethora of them. Let's see. Indecisive Garage is here. Mama M3, Bill McKyska, 6th Street Garage, Michael Robert Embry. Did you dyno the EZ302? I did. And I put the video out on my Mr. Rodder's Neighborhood channel. Matter of fact, it made an impressive 358 horsepower. And here's the interesting thing. It made 370 foot-pounds of torque. And it made it all 1,000 RPM less than a DZ302. So the status of that now is this. It kind of is on the back burner somewhat. I'm working a deal. Professor P had mentioned it at work, and Edelbrock was kind of excited about it. So they may end up throwing me a few parts so we can get this thing up on the dyno and really ring it out with a new cam and a intake manifold just to see what kind of power it's really going to make. I'd like to get it up to the RPM of where the DZ302 made the most power, and then you can compare apples to apples. But there may be a few stops in between there. And we will go through some of the pictures from that. Matter of fact, we'll do that here in a little bit, okay? Let's see. Mom M3 says, it's all good, Dallas. You can handle it. I'm going to try to handle it as best I can. I don't think I could do any worse than not having a show, so we're gonna wing it. All right. Well, I guess I'm all caught up. Okay, and 38 Racing just popped in. Good evening, y'all. And as you know, in the No Name Nationals community, we all pretty much just greet everybody to death. You're more happy to see the person than you are not. So yeah, and that's why we say that No Name Nationals is literally a family reunion where a drag race breaks out. So all right, well, to get on to a few things, I was going to go through some pictures tonight, and maybe we can just share them all. Well, not share them around, but I'll throw the pictures up and we can talk about them. Let's see. I'll see if I can find some more pictures here. While I'm doing that, you guys come up with some questions you want to throw up tonight, and maybe I can answer them as best as possible. Okay. All right. Well, right now we're going to surf for some pictures. So at the moment, I'm in the folder where I keep all of the awesome Wednesday Night Tech Talk Live thumbnails. This one, I'll talk about this one, I guess. All right. So this is a 2024 recap. You've probably seen this one. It was just everything that happened in 2024. And let's see here. There's a question popped in from KS Skyhawk. Okay. Harmonic balancer out, 30,000 balance rotating assembly kit from PAW. Besides ATI, what options are out there? Does it have to be Buick specific? Generally, yes, it has to be Buick specific. And then what you're going to run into if you're looking, you probably need a stock one. An ATI, what you're going to find is neutrally balanced for the Buick. And really the ATI is available for the V6 Buick, but a V6 one, as you know, will fit on a 350, 300, 215 Buick. But it will be neutrally balanced. It won't have, because the Buick is externally balanced. And so you need, technically, I mean, if you wanted to put the ATI damper on there, you're going to need to rebalance the crank and the flex plate. A stock one is available, and I know that TA Performance, they sell either Romac. I think they might sell Romac ones. But if you need a stock one, just hit me up. I got plethora of them. I might actually even have an aluminum 300 one. So if you'd be interested in that, that would be great. You can take it off my hands. Let's see. Okay. Okay. Vintage Adventure Drives. What's your opinions on stock style timing chain tensioners? I just realized I can get one for a 3.9 and put it in my 318. Okay. This I don't have much experience with at all. Timing chain tensioners, but here's what I do know. And then you're just looking at parts specifically. If you want something that lasts, that's longevity, generally use an OEM part. If you're using a stock replacement part, like say from, I don't know, Standard or what's another brand that's out there everywhere, like Eklund at Napa, those don't seem to have a higher quality rating or what they used to be, decent quality in comparison to today. Most of them have been farmed out overseas. The metal is less likely to last. I've had better luck with OEM pieces. And if I can really do it, what I do is I find things on eBay that are new old stock, that are like original from when the engines were originally made. If you're looking for something that's like for a 318, see if you can find a new old stock chain tensioner from like literally the first couple of years that the 3.9 V6 was made. That's what I'd be looking at. All right. 38 Racing says I'll be spinning wrenches and listening in. That's good. Andrew Nelson is here. Let's see. All right. KS Skyhawk asks, small block and big block different? Yes, the big block is considerably bigger and thicker than the small block. The V6, the 215, the 300, 340, and 350 all share the same harmonic damper, but the 215 has a different timing marker on it, and I really wouldn't do the 215 damper. If you find one, I would try to find one for like a 350 Buick or 300, because it has the same timing mark, but the 300 one is made of aluminum. The outer ring is made of aluminum. It's still balanced the same, but it being made of aluminum makes it considerably less rotating mass, which will allow your engine to spin up faster. Okay. If you do get a 300 harmonic damper pulley, or a harmonic damper itself, you're going to need the corresponding pulley that goes with it, because the way it has a steel center hub that is swedged to the outer ring, which is aluminum, And then those swedge, I don't know what you would call them, rivets, um, they stick through the actual pulley holes themselves. There's a second set of holes in the pulley to just have those rivets stick through, and then you have the bolt holes. If you need a pulley, I got a plethora of pulleys, but I can't guarantee, since the 300 water pump is a little bit shorter than a 350, that it will definitely work. It'd be something that we would probably have to mix and match a bunch of pieces and send some stuff through the mail to figure out. Or I can probably mock it up here at home if I got a 350 Buick on. No, I don't have a 350 Buick. I do have a 300 ready to go, and I can put a 350 water pump and stuff on it. Okay. Let's see. Okay, and you have a long water pump. So I can try something. If I already have a 300 block that's there, and I can pull the water pump off. I literally just put all that stuff on, but I might be able to do that just to mix and match and see if something's going to work for you. SSR Performance has popped in. This is Big James from the James and James Show, but nothing's really happening here tonight. It's actually a one-man show for the evening. But so BNR Racing is asking, where's Professor P? I had a Pontiac 455 V8 crankshaft turned down, all 6 counterweights, 125 inch to an 1/8 inch, past few days. Maybe that's a 1 1/4 or something. I don't know what that. Wade won. Difficult questions for P. He is not here tonight. He had a conflict with his family. Something came up with his family. And so he was like, hey, I'm not going to be able to make it. He told me this like on Sunday. So it was no surprise. But I went ahead and called Andy Wood to fill in tonight. And then Andy had something come up like last minute. So there was nothing I could do about it. So I'm just winging it myself. Let's see. Yes, I'm all alone tonight. Hopefully that's good enough for you guys to get your fix. Let's see. Vintage Adventure Drive says, how much advantage was the switch pitch? Okay, well, I got a switch pitch transmission in my 84 Suburban, and with the smaller cubic inch 400 Buick, because I have a 400 big block in it, which was only made from 67 to 69 and was the least desirable out of all the Buick big blocks that were made. That's why I ended up in the Suburban, is I had a 455 in there and you couldn't give away the 400. So I decided to put the 400 in place of my 455, rebuild the 455 and send it out the door. And then I've been driving the Suburban ever since. When I did that, I had a regular turbo 400 in it, and it was actually not too bad to drive. The second I put a load on it, like a trailer, because originally I had a camper that I went around to all the AHRA events and would stay in the camper instead of buying hotel rooms. Then the camper really, really slowed it down. And I was very unhappy with it. Instead of, I was assuming that the 400 was going to get maybe 2 miles to the gallon better. And since I was towing the camper and I thought, I'm trying to save myself some cash through the AHRA for fuel economy, because that was my biggest overhead, was fuel costs, that this would be the best way to go. Well, it turned out, no, it wasn't. It gets this almost exactly the same mileage, but is very anemic. And if you look at the horsepower and torque numbers of the 400 Buick, it has almost exactly the same horsepower as the 455, but the torque numbers are considerably less. And it's like, it's not like you would think, like I gave up 50 foot-pounds of torque for, 55 cubic inches. No, it was like I gave up 85 foot-pounds of torque for 55 cubic inches. So what that means to me is the head is the cylinder head is exactly the same head. And I believe what it is the port velocity is so much lower at low RPM because of the 55 cubic inches that it doesn't meet peak port velocity until considerably higher in RPM band, where it makes a maximum of about 440 foot-pounds of torque. But that's if it's 10 1/4 1 compression. So I'm assuming it's probably like 380 foot-pounds of torque, something like that. But what I did was I put the switch pitch in it to make up that difference, so I could use the RPM to get some good mid-range torque and help it tow. It does tow really, really well with the switch pitch in it. But it's still crutching a 400 that doesn't have very much torque. It's probably, I would have to say that 400 Buick is probably on par with, like, say, a 350 Chevy. Torque-wise, it just doesn't have a lot of torque. It might be similar to like a 383 Chevy, but it's just not very, I'm not very happy with it. When I did put the stock low compression 455 in the Suburban, I was running the AHRA and was going around the tracks. It ran a 1570 in the quarter mile. And that's with a stock low compression 455, and it's a 3/4 ton Suburban. So Buick big blocks are kind of like Pontiacs. They just cared nothing about the weight. So I'd like to put a 455 back in it, but this time I'd like to build one that's for towing, specifically for towing. Okay. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, email me. Let's see. Can the switch pitch trip the tires when it changes pitch? No. It's actually like a gradual change. You'll hear it. It'll go from higher RPM, it'll drop down about 500 RPM, and it's gradual. It's kind of like more like a torque converter clutch lockup. Let's see. Mopar Al is in the house. It's good to see you, buddy. Paul Pihoy has just shown up, or that's the first time I've seen him tonight. Let's see. Andrew Nelson says some safety rules are outdated. However, don't think that the balancer coming apart is one of those ancient rules. I watched one come apart 3 years ago and pierced the arm of a competitor's arm. You know, that's something that's happened here recently. I guess in the past 4 years, where I think the first video I saw of it was like, I'm trying to think of what's that track in Illinois, on the west side of Illinois, North Illinois, right on the Iowa border. I can't remember the name of the track. They were having a donk race, and somebody wound up a Chevrolet small block, and the damper fell. It came apart, like literally exploded the outer ring, and it hurt some people. And that was, like, if you think about this thing exploding, because it probably literally came off in like 2 pieces, but as it hit stuff, it fragmented it around and damaged things. And but yeah, some people got really hurt with that. Let's see. And so everybody's beating up on me about the switch pitch now, huh? Let's see. Mama M3 says, Mr. Nelson, they say most rules were written in blood. Dates don't matter. Yes, that is 100% true. All the rules were essentially, especially for drag racing, were written in blood. They weren't written until someone died because of it or was seriously hurt. And especially the top fuel rules, big time. Okay, BNR Racing says it's actually good, Dallas. A GMT 4000 or GMT 400 Suburban weighs 6,000 plus pounds. I want to say it weighed, mine was 5,600 or 5,800, and it's a square body, right? So that's your generation there. The GMT 400 would be the one newer, so they may actually weigh more. I'm not entirely sure. Let's see. Cope Racing Transmissions want to know where Andy Wood is at. That's his spider web. He's down to one call sign now, the spider web. He did not show. He actually called me, text me just a few minutes before we went live saying, I'm stuck in traffic. I cannot make it home. I'm going to miss the show. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Yeah. Oh, there you go, Cope. It is Byron Dragstrip. Okay. Or no, not Byron. It's Cordova. BNR's right. It's Cordova. It's on exit 1 in Illinois. It's like literally as soon as you come in there. To tell you the truth, the way I remember it, I can remember the name of it, but the way I remember it, it's like literally exit 1 in Illinois on the Illinois side on, I don't know if that's 90. I think that's 90. No, it's not. But either way, you get off there to go to Cordova, and the first place on your right-hand side is a truck stop. And they have a restaurant there called Brothers. I think Family Restaurant is what it's called. And the Brothers Family Restaurant is one of those places that serves a chicken fried steak that's as big as a plate, right? And man, I used to like gobble that up every time I went through there. All right. Let's see. Oh, there you go. BNR saying it was that Cordova Donkmaster had a stock cast iron balancer on his 1,000+ horsepower LS. Well, there you go. That's it. That's what kills people. Let's see. All right. BNR Racing says my 97 C 2500 454 is a GMT 400 series. I had no idea they weighed that much, but mine is not a 4-wheel drive. It is a 2-wheel drive. So Bobby Frizzell says most rules were written as knee-jerk reactions to a freak accident, but freak accidents will always happen regardless of a rule. I agree with that. There is some that's written in stupidity. Like, okay, the roll bar rules, there was a huge accident in like Georgia, I think it was like 1969, huge one. That's the one that pretty much mandated the SFI involvement in racing because there was no standards at any of the tracks. I remember Hubert Platt doing an interview in like the 90s, it may have been the early 2000s, where he said that he ran in one of the tracks. It might have been in Georgia because I think that's where he was from. He ran in one of the local tracks in Georgia and he did a burnout, backed it up, and cleared the motor out. And he just rev it up a couple times to clear it out and then put it in gear and ease into the beams. When he revved it up those 2 times, it blew the guardrail down. So a lot of those rules, some of them are written in stupidity. And I think I hate the stupidity rules, the ones that are easily avoidable. Hey, I'm putting the battery in the trunk. I got no cutout switch on it, and I cable the entire length of the car, right? It's like, look, man, spend $50, put a cutout switch in there, locate it on the back, and keep yourself from burning the car to the ground. Those are the dumb ones that like you always have to remind people of. Can't use rubber fuel line all the way from the gas tank to the carburetor. It's going to rub through, right? We've already been there, done that, got the t-shirt. Let's see. M3 says, I'm still waiting for some of these grudge races standing at the starting line to take a rock like a bullet during a burnout. It'll happen. Well, I'll tell you what I know. Chris Cox is in here and can vouch. My wife and I towed all the way out to Northeast Dragway to, I think it was a bracket event out there. I don't think we were doing anything special. It was a bracket event, and they used to have us park right behind the burnout box, which there was these big, I don't know what you would call them, but they're big pictures. They're not necessarily as big as a billboard, but they're just pretty big pictures that all the stuff and trash kind of collected on. But one of them rocks came through the fence, the gate, and then it has like a lattice kind of set up there. Came through that and literally clipped the window in our black Expedition, and it shattered into a million pieces. The cool thing was a lot of folks from Northeast Dragway saw that happen, and they knew it wasn't a cheap window because it was the rear one, the self-opening rear one. And they all came up and bought a bunch of t-shirts and stuff because they felt sorry for me. Let's see. Okay. Oh, there you go. So Donkmaster took out like 5 spectators. One guy lost his face. There you go. I'm sure he got sued. Let's see. Paul Pihoy asks, do you have any experience with the 204R transmissions? Matter of fact, I do. That transmission right there is the one that led me to build my own transmission, which was a 204R. I was stationed in Hawaii. I went to the transmission shop, and I had taken my 204R out, and I took it to the transmission shop, and I just wanted it rebuilt. And I want to say it was like, the time was like $2,500, I think is what they wanted to charge me. And I said, no, man, just for a rebuild, not a new transmission. right? And the guy's like, yeah, it's $2,500. And I'm like, wow, holy crap. And then he said, well, here, come on, let's go talk to the rebuilder in the back. And we walk back in the back, and he's like, I can't remember what the guy's name was. We'll just use a name for, like, hey, Ed, what does it cost to rebuild a 204R? Oh, that's like $2,500. And he turned and looked at me, and I noticed he had no teeth in his face. Like literally they had all rotted out or whatever, and I'm like, I looked at that guy and I kind of just nodded my head and I turned and left. And this was when message forums, forum boards were pretty big. I went on the Turbo Buick one, and I said, hey, if I wanted to make a 204R that could live behind, like, say, 350 horse and 400 foot-pounds of torque, what would you do? And so these guys gave me a list of parts. This is the clutch pack setup I would use, or just buy the whole entire transmission rebuilder kit from TCI, and because it includes those same clutches. And then there was like I can't apply solenoid for, I think, for the band, was from a Grand National, or not the apply solenoid. The apply piston was from a Grand National. I had accumulator from something else, but I put it all together, and it took me like a good 2 months. I had never done a transmission before, and I bought a book called it was ATSG, Automatic Transmission Supplier's Guide. I bought it off of eBay, and it gave you a literal breakdown, exploded view of the entire 204R. You could not screw up the rebuild if you had that book and just followed it step by step. And that's what I used, was that book. And it literally cost me like $430 to rebuild the entire 204R. Let's see. Andrew Nelson says, time and technology need to temper many of the old rules. Do belts go bad in 2 years? No. Once upon a time, materials would decay quickly. Today's material science have eliminated that craziness. So I used to fight this rule right here specifically every year with SFI for the low buck regular weekend racer. I did. I fought this every year with them, and every year was just like almost a screaming match coming out of the place. When I went to PRI, this is where they have their annual meeting with SFI and the sanctioning bodies, and I had brought this 2-year rule thing up. Okay, I think it's a money grab. I think it's BS, because if you look at it like this, you take a 5-point harness and it's due every 2 years, but you go 1,000th of a second slower than where they require the 5-point harness, and you could have a factory OEM seatbelt that could be 50 years old and never, ever fail. Okay? If it's long as it's not frayed and falling apart, you can run that 50-year-old belt. But the belt that was significantly stronger with significantly more strands and significantly more belts required a 2-year cert. And then I'm like, hey, there's no in between on this. I mean, it's like, I don't understand why it's so early. So they explained to me, think of it as the worst case scenario. If you had an altered and you parked it outside in the sun in your driveway, the belt would last 2 years. And I said, oh, maybe that is logical. And then it dawned on me. If it's the sun and the elements, the moisture, all that stuff, mold, that deteriorates the belt itself, how come nobody ever inspects a stock car belt when they put them in the car? The stock car guys put them in, and they never get looked at it again unless, like, they just make sure they got a belt. They don't care about the date, ever. And now I know that they don't have the same speeds and inertia as in drag racing, but, you would think those guys have an opportunity to literally be hit from all kinds of angles. And that's what I never agreed with. There you go. I cause new rules. Yes, that's probably what we need to do. Let's see. Vintage adventure drives with my cutoff switch on my Scamp is a lifesaver. I find that thing is super duper useful once you install it. Yeah. Dust Devil Garage says, I still don't agree with the seatbelt dates. I'm right there with you. The only thing is it keeps you from. Here's the thing: if I followed the SFI rules for AHRA, and let's say somebody got hurt and their stuff was within tech, here's the hardest thing to swallow. Okay, if someone got killed at a racetrack, it's not the dead guy that's going to be suing you. It is the family member that doesn't understand the situation that's going to come after you. And so you have to have all your ducks in a row. If there's any part where I was negligent, any part, what SFI says this must happen, it must be painted green, and I paint it blue, I am negligent and I am responsible and I lose my business. It doesn't matter if it had anything to do with this guy's death. If it was any kind of safety like thing that led up to it and I was negligent on it, it was my, and like I knew about it, it's my responsibility. So you end up losing to the courts. That's the problem. Let's see. Oh, here you go. And then Chris Cox is telling you that window sounded like a shotgun going off when it shattered. It did. It was like, pow. And we were like, what in the world was that? And then I look over at my wife's new Expedition and I almost cried. Let's see. Bobby Frizzell says there's too much money in grudge racing for it to ever change. It'll never change. And then the money for the drug or for grudge racing generally comes from drugs. So it's always going to have a lot of money in it. At the last race at Yellow Belly, they were charging people $100 to stand behind the burnout box. I don't know. I tried to stay away from all that when I was running the AHRA, but it seems like that's the trend now. That's where everybody wants to go, and that's what they want to do. And the worst thing that could ever happen, there's two things I've ever seen, is a fuel car has like a lock clutch in it, right? You got to get up above a certain RPM before it'll really start to lock up. And I saw a video not too long ago where they started a fuel funny car. It was the Candies and Hughes replica car, whatever you want to call it, the tribute car. They fired it up and the throttle was stuck wide open and the car took off with the two crew guys hanging, and the top was up on the funny car and the two crew guys were hanging onto the engine as it's doing burnout as the engine's wide open throttle. Okay. The other one was a thing that they called a comeback. The comeback is essentially a race car goes out, hits the wall, the driver's knocked unconscious, it does a 180 and it comes back wide open throttle up the track. Okay. That's the one I think that would probably be the most scary for me. Oh, let's see. Okay. All right. Yeah, they're talking amongst themselves. Okay. Tom Brown wants to know, has anyone watched a remake of Duel where the girls on the Mustang against the record truck? I like the original better, but still an okay watch. I have not seen it. I didn't know there was a remake of Duel. That's kind of interesting because generally you think that would be in the car community circles pretty thick. And I have never heard anything about it. So is it relatively new? Let's see. Vintage Adventure Drives. The first auto trans I rebuilt took me a week. It was a Torque Flight A904. Oh, and the good thing is the Torque Flight, that's a good one to start off with because the 904 or the 727 are relatively simple because they're one of the first few automatic transmissions. Like when they first came out, those were it. And so the technology you would think would be like, it's fairly archaic because it's like 1950s technology. And that's what I like about the old school transmission. What's so funny is like the 727, the 904, the Turbo 400, the C6 Ford, all of that stuff is like literally indestructible, right? We got 1,000 horsepower going through them these days and was made in like the mid 50s to the early 60s. So I find that very, I don't know, enlightening when you think about how awesome the transmissions are today, or engines or whatever. I mean, they were really on it. The automotive community back then, the engineers were on it, man. Let's see. Bobby Frizzell says the helmet rule is just as bad as the seatbelt rule. If your helmet has never been damaged, you shouldn't have to replace it every few years. I don't know when that one came along, but it used to be as long as you had a helmet that you could run anything up to like 740s. And it didn't matter what year, when the expiration was. But I guess that, I guess that rule probably came into place when people were using the same helmet for 10 years and their sweat was breaking down the helmet pieces. I'm not sure. I don't know where that one came from. So this is one that Andrew Nelson, I could totally sympathize with this. Please explain how a 1/4-inch thick aluminum trans shield goes bad because of age. The one on my C4 and my T-Bird was expired by like years, but it never had had never even. I think I took it out of the car twice. Right, it just expired, sitting there, being an inanimate object. And you're right, it is 1/4-inch thick, and I think what they look at is cracks, but I'm not entirely sure. I screwed it all up to begin with when I used a grinder on it to clearance it for my headers. Nobody saw that, but the very first time I went to an NHRA event and I ran at like a divisional, they literally looked at every SFI tag I had on the car. Let's see. Let's see. Mom M3 says Dallas never give in to the rule of people on the line. No, I probably won't. I mean, we don't have a problem at No Name Nationals. Everyone, if you're at Sykeston, you know that little bleacher area right next to the line, that's the place to be anyway. So, and it keeps you safe because it's at least on the other side of the wall. Let's see. All right. So Vintage Adventure Drive says a local guy had a car. He was tuning for top alcohol. A lift up, turn around on him, and ended up hitting the driver's kid doing the comeback. He quit racing after that. I'm kind of right there with you. That to me would be almost life ending for me. That would if my son got ran over. Oh my gosh, I'd be just crushed. Let's see. BNR says my 70 Trans Am handles like a Corvette. Oh, you guys are still talking amongst each other. Okay. And racing is dangerous, but ignorantly disregarding rules. I'm not a big fan of it. I definitely don't like. Last year, here we are, No Name Nationals. I don't know if you guys were aware of the big controversy that was going on last year. I got paint on my glasses. The big one was those heavy hitter 10.5 cars showed up, and not one of them had a diaper on it. They're running like in the 5s, right? Still 4s. There was only like a couple of us that did, and John had been saying it at the safety. He does the annual safety meetings on his channel, the lives, and he'd been saying it the whole time. And then these guys show up and they're like, "You didn't say anything about it." Like, we told you you're gonna have to pass AHRA tech rules, which says that if you're running a power adder, you got to run one. And it's kind of like, what do you do? When John forced all them guys to get an engine diaper, they weren't going to run. So let's see. Oh, okay. Tom Brown says the movie was called Wrecker in 2015. It was from Canada. I'll have to see if I can watch that. So that was, I agree with that. That if you're running a stick car, they don't just have like a bell housing. It's like serious bell housing. No. Okay. So BNR is asking how to get scatter shields or clutch cans recertified. Can that be done through AHRA? That's not done through the AHRA. That actually has to be done with the manufacturer, and then they recertify it. I don't know if there is a endless life on recertification. on some of those, like, because what you're talking about, the clutch cans, those things are virtually indestructible. You could put a grenade in there and set it off, and it won't do anything to it really. I they don't, but see, Lakewood is now gone, so I don't know how people are doing them. Maybe they're sending them. Well, I guess Lakewood is not gone, but a lot of the bell housings are. They can probably still resert them. Okay, and Bear Rose has just popped in. Welcome, buddy. Okay, Danny. Oh, never mind. They are, but there's going to have to be some updates done. I mean, some of the rules change. They change every year. Honestly, SFI updates them every year. But there is some things that I'm going to have to, like. I can't flex on because I can't afford to, like. I can't afford to eat a lawsuit, right? So we just imposed the rules, and people just freaking leave. I guess they leave, but make sure that the car is safe to go down the track. And I mean, you've seen some of the attendance drop from the people that you would think would be regulars at the No Name Nationals, but because of some of the safety rules, I'm not going to lie, it's much more stringent than their hometown track, which probably checks nothing. And I know the local track here. I literally showed up with my T-Bird. They'd never even seen it before, didn't even look anything over, and I went out and made it the second fastest pass on the property that night, and it was by 2,000 slow. So no one looked at anything. Let's see. BNR Racing says I'm reusing my McLeod scatter shield, clutch can, no SFI sticker. Think it's from the 80s. That's fine, dude. I'm going to do the same thing on my Buick Superstocker because there's maybe McLeod can recertify them, but I'm sure that they probably will never certify a. Us BOP guys got it freaking tough when you're talking 4-speed stuff. There's very few bell housings made for our stuff. You can find a OEM bell housing. It's still difficult to find OEM bell housing, but you can find those 10 times easier than you can the clutch cans, like you're talking about. And mine is like humongously heavy, but it is a Lakewood, and it's from, like, say, the mid 90s. But they no longer make that stuff for the BOP guys. Let's see. There's some new manufacturers. What is that one? QuickTime Performance Mix bell housing for a BOP. I think it's like $800-900. So let's see. All right, where can I find the AHRA rulebook? The only remaining place for the AHRA rulebook is actually on the Facebook page under, I can't remember what it's called, like documents, and it's still there. The AHRA is technically on a hiatus. The rulebook, if you download the rulebook, it's going to be relatively close. There'll be a few things that have been updated and changed, like the helmet date and stuff like that. But the AHRA is on a hiatus. I'm in the middle of by the time it's all done, 3-year-long divorce. I have nothing to divvy up except for a home, but it's taken that long just to get to this point. So while I was going through this divorce, I couldn't see myself running it, especially the first 6 months or whatever, like trying to sell you a membership or a t-shirt with tears running down my face. That wasn't going to work for me. It probably wouldn't work for selling many t-shirts or memberships either. So I'd just be wasting a bunch of money. But yeah, hopefully I'll get back on that. If it depends what my financial situation is after this divorce is done and over with. And August should be the date. Let's see. Okay, BNR Racing says QuickTime makes a Pontiac V8 steel bell housing for Muncie 4-speed, but has open bottom holes all over. Don't like it. Don't trust for 7,000 RPM. Yeah, that's probably so you can adjust the clutch. That's what I'm thinking. I bet that's what that's for. Let's see. Clayton's Toolbox says my car has a modified firewall because of an engine swap. It's properly done, but the rule book says I need a full cage if I modify the firewall. Is that right? The car is not super fast. No, that's not right. You just can't have like any holes through your firewall. where fire could come in the holes. If your firewall has been modified and then welded back into place, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that at all. It's just when people modify it and leave it open where there's a hole, it's the problem. So you know where this rule came from? I'll tell you. It became a mandatory rule on all race cars after this guy named John the Zookeeper Mulligan died in an accident in Top Fuel. And what happened is they had a hole in the firewall that left open to pass through all the cables and wires. And there's not a lot on a fuel car. There's very few. Okay. So the hole was like, say, 2 inches big in the firewall. What happened was when a Top Fuel engine blows up, because normally, okay, I'll explain to you how it really works. They run so much fuel in these engines, sometimes it doesn't ignite, or sometimes you get a miss. And what happens is a cylinder ends up filling up with fuel and hydrolocks, right? And then you get the valve gets hung open and they fire. They got so much magneto in them, it'll fire the spark in that cylinder. And it's generally like when you get two revolutions of the crankshaft where it doesn't fire and it fills with fuel and it doesn't get expelled. You can see this on Top Fuel today when they do their burnouts. You can see some of the cylinders get blown out on the exhaust. It'll be white. It'll be like white mist coming out the exhaust. And anyway, what ends up happening is what they call banging the blower. Okay, when the exhaust or when the intake valve is open and the fuel and the nitro burns off, it explodes and blows the blower off the top of the motor. When it does that, they didn't used to have straps on the top to hold it, right? So the blowers would blow off and then land somewhere, maybe on a fan, maybe in the stands, who knows. But in John Mulligan's case, it blew the intake manifold off the block and all the oil came up and essentially lit off the headers. And then because it was going like 200 miles an hour, it funneled all of that fire into that little 2-inch gapped hole. And it was just like a torch. It literally cut the man in half at 200 miles an hour at the big end of the track. And he died a couple days later from his burns. So let's see. Oh, and you're right. Mama M3 says that the AHI rulebook is on the No Name Nationals registration site. It is. Okay, let me catch up. And BRNR says it's quick time is for road racing. Dallas lax rules. Yeah, it just seems to be the drag racing stuff is really tough. The rules are. Bobby Frizzell says, honestly, very few places have tech anymore. I've been racing all my life in drag week, and the No Name Nationals is the only time I've ever been through tech. Yeah, I keep it pretty tough. It's literally to leave out the stuff that shouldn't be there. Let's see. Okay. All right, Dr. Hart is here. All right, so we're going to get onto some pictures because I literally have, let's see. All right, we're going to throw a couple pictures up here. I got some pulled up here. Let's see here. Okay, like I said, I can go through this is the one you guys were talking about tonight. Right, there we go. So as you can see, my I guess Photoshop skills are not all that great. It's really simple what I do, and I literally just copy the faces and I move them to a different picture. But this was literally a Starsky and Hutch picture that I just cropped that on from when we were going to do it. So that was supposed to be tonight's live. That's Andy Wood on the right, myself on the left. No big deal. But let's see. We'll throw another one up there. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go down the famous ones. All right. Okay. Wednesday Night Tech Talk Live. BJ and the Bear, if you did not know. That's Professor P on the right, and me there as I can't remember if that's Bear. I think that's the Bear. I think that's his name. All right. Let's see here. Okay. All right. This one's easy. Well, actually, you know what? I'm going to do that one. Okay, here you go. Here's one of the early ones as well. Professor P on the left, me on the right. You got Hardcastle and McCormick. Okay, it's a lot of these shows, if you notice, are like pretty much a standard. They're pretty much from the 80s or early 90s, maybe late 70s, but they're all from about that same era, and that's because that's my era. That's what that's when I was a kid. So, all right. Let's see what else here. Okay. Here's one famous one. All right. Okay, me and Professor P as Poncherello, and man, I can't remember his name. uh, yeah, whatever the partner's name was. I don't remember what his partner's name was. So I guess what they say CRS, can't remember shit, is what you get when you get older. So that's what I'm at right now. Okay. That's right. I'm BJ McKay, and that's my best friend Bear. Name for Bear Bryant. That's right. Let's see. Ponch and John. There you go. That's it. Don was all over it. So Ponch and John. Let's see. Clayton's Toolbox. Have I done anything to the 63 Buick? It's one of the coolest YouTube cars, in my opinion. All right. I have been secretly working on it, but I'm working on something else right now. I will start having videos from the 63 Buick coming out because just this month, I drove 1,400 miles in 3 days. I picked up every part I would possibly need to finish the car up, so that I can have it at the Buick Nationals next spring, so 2026. If they have one, I'm going to be there, and I'm going to be running that Buick. We'll have it hopefully at No Name Nationals. I don't know if it'll have a 4-speed in it. I'm trying to keep working with the 4-speed, but the big problem is money for it. I'd rather eat. I like eating. It's keeping me alive. So, but I am working on that one. But I'll show you here in a second some pictures I have been working on. I got a lot of cool stuff. Okay. Let's see. Tom Brown says Car Chase Wonderland 2 on YouTube has a lot of old car chases from the chip show. Dude, it was like that era had some seriously awesome shows. I really love them. Yes, and I always loved that semi truck just because of that TV show. So Danny Boyd saying BJ drove that sweet Kenworth Aerodyne, I think it was called. There's a drag race. Let's see. Vintage Adventure Drive says there's a drag race event at my local strip called Ford versus Buick. I always thought it was an odd combination. It's not an odd combination if you're from the 80s. If you were a kid in the 80s, there was 2 legit muscle cars on the planet, the Fox Body 5-liter Mustang and the Buick Grand National. That's why it became Ford versus Buick. Those were the only 2 muscle cars in the 80s that was really worth a crap. You still had an Oldsmobile 442. It had a 307 Oldsmobile in it. It didn't measure up even close. Let's see. You had an IROC Camaro, but most of them, if you go back and look, the IROC stuff, most of those, what is that? The 3rd gen Camaro? I guess, I don't know. I don't know by generations. It's 82 to 92 Camaro. Had most of them were 305 powered. There was very few 350 powered. I don't think a 350 even came in one until like maybe 1987 or 1989. Yes. SS Monte Carlo was slow as dog snot. Grand Prix 2+2 slow as dog snot. They looked good. They looked the part, but they just weren't fast. I mean, they really were not fast. That Buick V6 Turbo in the Grand National, I'll give you an idea of how fast that sucker really was. The only reason General Motors ended production on that V6 turbo, they had 87 was the pinnacle year of the V6 turbo. That's when they got the intercooler right. That's when they got the compression ratio right. That's when they've got the good parts in it. And then all of a sudden it just disappeared. Like, we'll just not make one anymore. That was because it was hurting Corvette sales. And the Corvette is the breadwinner for General Motors. That's the baby. If you have never noticed it, Chevrolet is the baby for General Motors. When in reality, Buick was originally the better car. The Buick, Olds, and Pontiac lines were better cars than the Chevrolets by far, hands down. It was just the Chevrolet was cheaper, and many more people bought them just because they were cheaper, and they sold a ton of them. They don't, like the Buick, Olds, and Pontiacs, if you look at them, they don't measure up to, like, say, Chevrolet performance because they never had any money dumped into them. It wasn't until that V6 turbo Buick came out where there was really a Buick Motorsports division. And that's because they found a niche home in the Busch Grand National Series, which allowed you to run a nasty V6 as powerful as you wanted, or you had to run a low compression V8 in the Busch Grand National Series in the 80s. And so the Buick V6 found a home there because when they started making that stage 2 V6 Buick head and putting the compression up at 13 and a half, 14 to 1, they became an animal. Dallas, don't they still do the Buick versus Hemi cars somewhere too? No, not that I know of. That was a one-time deal. Kenny Duttweiler then worked in both. You know what? That it's funny that you say that, because what happened was, in my opinion, because I was around for this whole war, the Buick V6 Turbo had Kenny Duttweiler. They had a car called Tweaked that was an absolute monster, right? It was the fastest V6 Turbo Buick at the time. I want to say this was 1990, 91. And then the 5-liter Mustang guys started putting turbos on 302 Fords. And Kenny Duttweiler was the turbocharged experienced guy. So he kind of gravitated over to the turbocharged Fords just to help him tune. And next thing you know, Kenny Duttweiler is involved with both of them. And then the 5-liter Mustang literally took off like a rocket because, I mean, it was a turbocharged V8 compared to your turbocharged V6 Buick. But that's kind of how that went. And then it led into what you have today. There's a lot of grudge racing with Mustang Fox bodies with LSs and turbos. And I'll say this just because you guys may have not heard it. The LS is a V8 version of the Stage 2 V6 Buick. Okay. BNR says a 72 Pontiac GTO showed up at Marketplace with a Buick 455. I thought it was a cool swap. You know, the Buick 455 weighs 25 pounds more than a Chevrolet small block. I bet a lot of people did not know that. It's literally the same weight. So let's see. Fabrice Monrepeace says there are 2 IROCs, the sticker cars with 305s and the good ones with the TPI 350. I don't remember what year that TPIs came out. Well, when they came out with the TPI 350 and the Camaro, I want to say that was 87 or 89, somewhere around there, because they were concerned about that. If you didn't know this, the Gen 3 Camaro had the same rear end in it as a Vega. Okay, 7.5 inch. Somewhere in there, it went to 7.625, which is, I think, 7 5/8 inch rear end. Because of the concern of the torque with the TPI intake manifold on the 350. And it was a good concern because they had really good idle torque, really good with those long runners. And then you put a 700 R4 behind that, and then you put that puny, piddly little Vega V6 or 4-cylinder rear end, that 10-bolt 7 5/8 inch rear end, and it just would puke. It would puke the guts right out of that thing. Okay, Vintage Adventure Drive says my buddy's got a 305 86 Camaro. He's trying to hot rod the 305. It's got a big solid cam and he's got a tunnel ram for it. He's even planning to do a 5-speed swap. Tell him to stop right where he's at. And I got the perfect engine for him. If he just wants to wait around for a little bit, it's called the Easy 302. It's 302 cubic inch, but it's a 4-inch bore, 3-inch stroke. There you go right now. GNX was faster than the Corvette in the quarter mile. It also was the fastest production car in 87. And the other thing was the Buick engineers took that V6 turbo and put it in a LeSabre wagon or Electra wagon, I think, and towed the twin turbo Callaway Corvette out to the Arizona proving grounds for General Motors for testing. The engineers had so much fun with the V6 Buick turbo in the station wagon that they ended up racing it around the track, that LeSabre wagon, at the GM proving grounds and turned a better number than that turbo Callaway Vet. So that was GM literally, when they brought it back and it turned a better number than that Vet, they literally crushed it. Yeah, and they shut down Buick Motorsports because of that. Let's see. Let's see. All right. So was the 89 to 90 Pontiac Firebird Turbo GM was worried GM was worried Ford might get its act together. They didn't want for doing a 70 Boss Mustang again. Okay, so the 89 Turbo Trans Am, because that was a 1-year only deal, that literally came out. That was like a thumb to the nose of Chevrolet. Like I said, Chevrolet has always been the prized child of General Motors, which sucks because, see, Pontiac in the early super stock days was a better car, right? Chevrolet with the 348 and 409 could not really compete. The Pontiac 421 Super Duty was just stomping the crap out of them. But they couldn't have that. And so they took it from them, right? That's what they do. The 89 Pontiac Trans Am, that turbo one, was a 1-year only car. They only came in white and gold. And I can't remember what it was called. I can't remember what the variant was of it. But either way, it was virtually the same engine as the V6 Buick that was in the Grand National. I want to say it had a different style block, but that was it. And it ran just as good as Grand National. But that was Pontiac thumbing their nose at Chevrolet. Instead of putting Chevrolet engines in, they put a Buick V6, which, in my opinion, if you really were a head honcho at General Motors at the time, General Motors, I don't want to offend anybody here that's a GM fan, they really fucked up. Because what should have happened when they saw all these numbers, they should have crammed that turbo V6 Buick in that Corvette and went and just tore everybody's ass up. That's what I think. All right. He's a smart dude, and he's still the V6 Buick turbo guy to go to. Okay, I'm going to tell you what I know. Turbo Buick 3.8 versus Turbo 4.3 Chevrolet, which would be better? Okay, here's what I know. Let's look at the history of the engines, okay? 4.3 liter Chevrolet V6 with a turbo on it that came in the Cyclones was virtually a 350 Chevy with 2 cylinders cut off the back, okay? They had the even fire crank, just like the Buick V6, where the rod throws were offset so that you could have an evenly balanced engine. The Buick 3.8 liter started in 1961. All right. It originally was designed, it was a clean sheet of paper design where the 215 V8, all aluminum V8, the 231 V6, and they have one called the 198 V6, was virtually all the same engine family. It just shared 6 of the 8 cylinders with the 215. That 215 engine was designed in 1951. It was an experimental General Motors prototype that they took to the, like auto shows. And it was a huge hit. So Buick made this engine, which was a turbocharged aluminum 215 V8. The cost was so high because the engine was aluminum that General Motors forced Buick, Olds, and Pontiac to share it across their line. And that's what happened is Buick, Olds, and Pontiac, 61, the Pontiac Tempest, the Oldsmobile F85, and the Buick Special Skylark all shared this same engine. The Pontiacs were exactly the same as the Buick. The Oldsmobile got their own version of the cylinder heads. The turbocharger that was planned for the engine ended up on the Oldsmobile F85. So if you look at the 62 and 63 Oldsmobile F85, you could have gotten a suck-through GM turbo setup on your 215 with the aluminum cylinder heads or with the actual aluminum engine. Those things were pretty badass. The Buick version of the engine that was originally put on paper and the engineering behind it was designed to have the turbo on it. That's why it was such a huge difference between just a 3.8 liter V6 and the turbocharged 3.8 liter V6. The chambers and everything, the pistons, they were all designed to have a turbo. That was the original penning on the paper, was to have that. The engineering behind it was solid. And that's why there was a huge difference. Which one runs better? If you've ever driven a 3.8 liter V6 in anything, and then driven a 4.3 liter Chevrolet V6 in a S10 pickup, you would realize that the 4.3 liter is a turd for being as big as it is. It is an absolute turd. And they get terrible mileage, like truck mileage, like 15 to 18 miles to the gallon with an automatic overdrive and fuel injection. So the 3.8 liter, in my opinion, is by far superior. But in horsepower generation, naturally aspirated, I do believe that 4.3 liter Chevrolet runs away with it. Okay. Let's see. Dylan Levi is in the house now. I just got in from working on the Laguna. The exhaust is now complete, and the new ice box is close to being finished. Sweet. Man. Oh, yeah, there you go. And so Clayton, he's saying the Buick 3.8. It was a good engine. That's why I like the Buick 300. Okay. And the Buick 300 is literally a V8 version of the 3800 Buick. It is the same bore, same stroke, same rods, same pistons. I love them. Okay. And speaking of that, yeah, and you're right. It is the Y car. The Y body platform is what my 63 Buick Special is. All right. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to show you what I've been working on. Some 300 Buick stuff. And we're going to go up to desktop. And okay. First off, anybody know who this guy is? And what picture that is? Let's see. Okay, that is Smokey Unick posing with a Chevrolet small block that he uses for NASCAR. It doesn't look like anything too elaborate compared to today's stuff. Look, it's aluminum head, cast iron block. It looks like it uses the factory pulleys and brackets and all that stuff. Looks like maybe a Holly carb on a 2-inch spacer. And then it has an external oil pump so that they could run I don't know if it was running dry sump, but it probably fixed a lot of the oil starvation issues, running at high RPM. Okay. So when I saw this picture, this is what led me to do this. All right. When I did, okay. There's the Easy 302. So that was the thumbnail on the YouTube for my Mr. Rodder's neighborhood. I just tried to copy what Smokey was doing there. Just have some fun with it. All right. Okay, now let's see. Okay. Let's see here. All right. 63 Buick stuff. I don't have any pictures of doing this 63 Buick, but I do have something cool I'm working on. Okay. I think this is going to work. Yep. All right. Here's an intake manifold that I'm working on. The blue block is a 300. The red heads is a 350 Buick. It never came this way. These heads were not on this block. They had a different port arrangement and everything. This is a 350 Buick intake manifold that I have cut the top off of it, and I've sectioned it into 3 different pieces. And then I've sectioned the center of it, taken a full inch out of the middle of the intake manifold to fit this short deck block. So that's what I'm doing right now. That's what I'm working on at the moment. 300 Buick. This pile of parts that you see in the background, those are all from 63 Buick Special. I'm going to get on to the paint, finishing the rest of the body work, and then paint just the top half of the car so it's not all caved in and rusted and falling apart. And then I got a windshield for it. I have the back glass for it. I think every body panel I need to finish the car. So we're going to see what happens when I put this single plane 350 Buick intake manifold on this 300 Buick block. If I can make it work, the rumor is I can get almost 300 CFM out of these cylinder heads. That would be like a 600 horsepower 300 Buick. So I'd like to see how it turns out. I mean, in a stock form, it won't be like that. But, all right. Don't cheat. Yeah, he's talking about the Smokey picture. Yeah, I'm definitely not a cheater like Smokey Unick. But Smokey, I wouldn't call that cheating. Smokey was the dude that was like literally thinking outside the box before there was a box to think outside of. He created that box out there. I still like the so here's a story about B&R, you know, that the Smokey Unick drilled holes in the header primary tubes for better scavenging, he claimed in his book. The other thing that I liked about Smokey Unick was there is this crazy story about his, if you've ever seen his Flying Banana, the 67 Chevelle that was like 3/4 scale and like angled up. I think that's what it was, 67. Either way, Smokey, he pulled in the garage to be inspected by the tech inspectors at NASCAR, and they found his gas tank to be too big. So they took the gas tank out of the car. And here's the best part. When they took the gas tank out of the car, they pissed off Smokey Unick so bad, he jumped in the car and drove off in it. Now, there was no gas tank in the car. And you wonder how that happened. So, how did he drive off? Where was all that extra fuel at? Thanks, Tom. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm going to definitely get this thing done, and then hopefully I can get this thing working. Oh, look at this. Mr. Barkley Schmidt is here. It's good to see you, brother. Okay. The ports are on the Buick are big, tall, and narrow. That's kind of like what I really think that's where the LS got it from. Because if you were to use these ports and then arrange them like a V6 Stage 2 Buick, which they were not reverse of each other, they were symmetrical ports for each one was the same. I think that's where it came from, really. But there you go. Fabrace Mod repeats. Smokey Unick and Harry Hyde, the kings of true outside the box thinking. If the rules didn't say it's illegal, then it ain't. Innovation. Yeah, so Tom Brown saying that would look great with a cross ram Hillborn setup. I was thinking more like a tunnel ram. I was thinking, I wonder if I should just make a flange on each set of runners, and then I could just make any intake manifold to fit down on that. You know, so I could put my single plane on there. I could put a tunnel ram on there. I don't have to change the intake manifold blower ever again. I don't know. I don't know how far he got. I know he just made it back to the pits. Okay. That's probably it right there, Ron. An overly large fuel line. They used to say that he had like, was it garden hose for fuel lines? Okay, Bobby Frizzell wants me to get that Buick done. I'd love to, man. I know I'm not going to be able to get it done this year, but definitely I'm shooting for next year. I got to meet up with Chris Cox. I got to go cut that rear end down with Chris, and then we're going to get it kind of ready to essentially just bolt in the car. So I think it's going to be good. Oh, Barclay's got the new big block ready to go in the Cutlass, I'm assuming. Oh, well, there you go. Kenny Duttweiler 20 years ago said the LS came from the Buick V8. That's cool. And so I always assumed that it did. It just has too many things that are similar. Matter of fact, the 5.3 liter has the same board stroke as the V6 Buick. So, okay. Cylinder heads are from Ford Cleveland Jack Roush D3 series. I don't know about that. I think it looks more similar to the Stage 2 V6 Buick than anything. But I could be wrong. I don't know. Okay, so that's what I've been kind of working on. Let's see. I'll get another picture up here so you guys can see it. Oh, you want to see what a 63 Buick Special looks like? This is what I'm working on. Mine looks a lot more jalopy and junky. This is for the, I don't know. I think it looks like a Indianapolis 500 pace car, but I'm not sure what that says on the side. So, all right. Oh, dang it. All right. Oh, you guys want to see some cool Buick history? I don't know. Probably not. Okay. Okay, here's another thing I've been working on. This is a custom-made spacer. This is a temporary. It's not meant to look like, it's not meant to be out of plastic. This is a spacer for a 300 Buick to run the 215 intake manifold on the 300 Buick. So then instead of buying a $600 intake manifold, you just buy a set of spacers and you buy an Edelbrock 215 intake manifold and run it on your 300. And that way they're plentiful, they're available, they still make new ones. And I just need to finish the spacers. Right now, this is version 2.0 or 3.0. I think 3.0. The bolt hole angles are not the correct exact angle, which causes this thing to be off by a 1/4 inch around the port, if you can see that. So that's the problem I'm having with it now. I had to send it back to the guy making the file, and then they're going to readjust the bolt holes, make them a little bit larger, 7/16 holes instead of 3/8 holes, and give it a little bit of wiggle room. And then he's going to send me back version 4.0. And finally, one day I'll eventually have a set of spacers that will work for a 300 Buick to put a 215 intake manifold on it that anyone can buy. Okay. All right. So another thing came up just the other day, and I'll see if I can get this picture pulled up because I wanted to ask you guys about this. And then I'll go through and answer some of the questions. Okay, so I got a little S10 pickup that I use for my daily beater. I asked this last night on Buff and Kim's Live. This car has come up for sale. It is a very odd body style. And by odd, I mean ugly as all sin. But it's like one of those ugly, so ugly your mother couldn't love it, or only a mother could love it. But now, after all these years, I really am starting to appreciate it. This thing's come up for a very reasonable price. And it's a 3.8 liter V6 Buick with a turbo 350 transmission. It's a 78 Buick Century is what this is. It's based off of like the Malibu. I think it's a cool car. They're just because it's so odd. Like, I've only seen 2 of these in my life because they were so ugly they didn't sell. But now if I was to drive that around and get rid of my S10 pickup, it'd probably get the same mileage. I could easily work on it, and it's something that it fits with my Buick Forte, and it's uglier than sin. No one in their right mind would steal this car because there's literally probably one registered in all the country. So uh, that's kind of how I'm thinking about it. Um, okay. Tom Brown wants to know: do the 215 Rover 300 aluminum heads from TA use the regular or stage 2 ports? Far as I know, they use the regular port size, the 65 and later gasket size, which is the later ones, because the 64 is smaller. You can't even buy the 64 gasket anymore. I think they stopped production on that. So the 65 ports, as far as I know, but they do not use a standard Buick rocker arm assembly. You have to look at see, because I think it moves the valve just enough that you can't use the factory rockers. Okay. Clayton's toolbox. Are you saying that this ugly Buick Century makes you want a Buick, or my Spacers? I guess. And then Barrows is telling me to do it. I guess I need to go buy this thing. It is a G body, and that's what they ride nice. It's simple to work on. It is right here. That is butt ugly. It is butt ugly, but it's so ugly that nobody could ever steal your car. Not that they would maybe want to. Dean Stevenson says that makes a Cybertruck look cool. Yes, but this thing is grandma fresh, and for $2,800, I could be riding around in style. Okay, here's the best one. So Blue Grit Garage says it looks like they put it in the wind tunnel backwards. Unfortunately, the Buick and the Oldsmobile, I want to say it was the Cutlass Salon or something, got this body style, while the Malibu and the Pontiac Grand Le Mans got the better looking body style, the more boxy one. I think this would have looked better, and I always wanted to do one of these, but put the Malibu body on it and make it a 78 Buick Century, two-door coupe. I guess it's not even a coupe; it's a sedan. I guess two-door hardtop. Yeah. Let's see. Hey, good night, Ron. I'll see you later, bud. G-body shuffle. And Tom Brown saying the GNX Century. That would be a cool idea, but this one's just a naturally aspirated 3.8 liter. I actually thought about, I'm just going to run this 3.8 liter until it pukes its guts, which inevitably is going to happen. The Buick V6 has the same inherent problem as all the Buick small blocks, and that's it'll eventually eat the number one cam bearing or get so much slop on the number one cam bearing that it'll just hemorrhage oil and it can't keep oil pressure at idle. It's kind of like a slant six Mopar, where when the oil light starts to flicker, you just run some thicker weight stuff. Oh, all thrust, no rudder says that rear slope started with the Caddy Seville, and that is true. I remember seeing the Cadillacs like that. I didn't know. I bet that did come from that. Yeah, so the Buick was so ugly, they sold so few that they actually stopped selling this body style in like 1979 or 80. It was only like 1 or 2 years that they sold this thing. And maybe that's what I could do is just paint this whole thing silver and call it a Tesla Cyber car. Actually, if I was going to do that, I would just put the front end on an El Camino and then have myself a Buick El Camino. I guess we call it, instead of like a La Sabre, we could call it the El Sabre. So, oh, my parents had the 4-door turbo model. They loved it, drove it for 10 years. That's odd that you say that. You could get the V6 turbo Buick in this ugly car. You could get the 4-door version, which was literally a notchback. This one is actually a hatchback, which makes it very practical because the rear seat folds forward, and then you can just put stuff in there, just like a station wagon. So that's the kind of the idea that I have. I can haul my trash in this. I can pick up motors and trannies still, and I can have a car that gets car gas mileage, and it's not an S10 pickup with the frame rusted in half. Oh, that's what I need right there. That'll wake up this Regal. Yeah, well, if I score this thing, I will get in touch with you, 38 Racing, because I'd like to have that thing. Bear Rose, you're right. This thing looks grandpa fresh. I mean, like really clean. Technically, the motor's been rebuilt, it says, and that it has a cam in it. Which, why would somebody put a cam in a 3.8 V6 Buick? I don't know. I mean, to me, Danny Boyd's saying Grand Nationalize it. I could technically put a 300 Buick in this thing and a 204R, and I bet it would get 30 miles to the gallon with a V8 Buick in it. Let's see. All right. Well, I tell you what. Things are. I guess I'm kind of running out of stuff to show you guys. All right. I'll go a little bit longer. I don't think I'm going to make it the next 30 minutes. I'm starting to get a headache from all this talking. But all right. So my next picture is something I've been working on about 8 years. When my father died, he left me 16 big block Buicks and a bunch of transmissions, a couple small block Buicks and stuff. But when he died, he has a 70 GS Stage 1. And that picture's not going to work. Okay, well, that one's not going to work. I can't show it to you anyway. I've been working on this engine now for like, you know what? I've been working on an engine. I took all 16 engines apart, his big blocks, and I took the best parts out of every single one. So I had a standard crank and a standard block, and it's a 70 block, and I got the factory 70 10 and a quarter 1 compression pistons and all that stuff, and I literally put it all in one engine, and now I'm going to have a bone stock standard everything 455 stage 1 Buick engine. And all right, so we're going to get this picture pulled up because I got it on the I won't play that one either. Okay, well, sorry, I'd have to convert it. But I do have a 70 stage 1 455 I've been working on for like 7 years. Okay. And I will hopefully have it done. Okay. Oh, no, you're right, Danny Boy. It probably has a 255 rear end gear because every V6 Regal I had from that era, that's the gear that came in. If Colleen's want me to go buy it, and she'll send me an $80 membership fee. I don't know if I actually need that. I would actually just probably just buy it. I really like it. I really like the idea of getting rid of my S10 and have something that looks Buick but old, but it suits me. It just suits me. So that's what I was really considering. Okay, Dallas, please let me know when you have the spacers for sale. Would love to buy a set. I sure will. I will let you know. I've been working on this. This is something. Those spacers. If you follow me back on Facebook, when I started doing YouTube was with Tony. Before that, I was just on Facebook doing Buick V8 stuff, and I started on those spacers back then. That was like 2020, right? For 3 years, this has been sitting on this engineer's desk because I was going through this whole divorce thing, and that was not the priority, so it just kind of hung there. So I'm sorry it took so long, but let's see here. All right. BNR says a friend of mine had a 67 Electra. I forgot the engine size. I want to say it was 430. It was fast for a big car. Yes, that is their engine size. Matter of fact, 67 would have been the good year because it had the big port cylinder head. So instead of having the small ports like 170cc, it had the 210cc cylinder head on it. That would have been a real badass cylinder head to have on something. That 430 was equivalent of a 427 in a full size car and a Chevrolet version, the on PAL SS. All right. So, man, hey, Bear Rose, send me $10. Thank you so much, Bear Rose. And then, oh, man, they're all pouring in. So we got Mama M3 said $10 for the Buick fund, and then 38 Racing is saying Brown buys a Buick bucks. All right. Well, hey, I appreciate it. That is going to get me there. That's definitely a start. So I appreciate you guys sending that to me because I do want to score this thing, and I need to get it before somebody else swoops in and nabs it because it is clean, and I'd like to. Really, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to drive around for like the next 5 years, and I have transmissions, I got engines, it's got a transmission you can rebuild at home. It's just a regular turbo 350 non-lockup. It's got a 3.8 liter Buick carbureted with an HEI distributor. You can't go wrong. It'll run for 5 years, no problem. Let's see here. Okay. BNR Racing said, who was Buick V8 engineer in Dallas during the glory days? There's a guy that comes to the Buick Nationals. His name is Denny Manor. And Denny Manor lives down in Georgia, I think. And he normally brings a Buick engineering historical tent up to the Buick Nationals every year and shows off all the experimental stuff that Buick did during the 60s muscle car era. So even nailhead and 455 stuff, as well as he worked on the V6 turbo Buick program. So that was his claim to fame. He literally worked there as an engineer all through the major eras of General Motors, like the muscle car eras. That would have been probably the best time to work there, in my opinion. Tom Brown says the greatest part of buying that Century is that my ex will never want it and it'll never look like it's worth anything. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. Danny Boyd says it's the factory 3.8. It might have a turbo 200. It may. I don't know when those came out. I don't know if they were available in 78 or not. But it could have a turbo 200, which is technically would be even better than the turbo 350 because it would get better mileage. And then the turbo 350 can easily replace it. Or even better, in my opinion, the 204R is what I really would like to put in there, and then set like a set of 373 gears. 38 Racing says, Dallas, if you don't buy it, some kid will get it for his first car. That will be the end of it. Yeah, you're probably 100% right on that. Oh man, thanks so much. All thrust, no rudder threw me $10 for $10 for Buick bucks. Thanks so much, man. You guys you're making my day here. I think it would be pretty awesome if I could go get that sucker like ASAP. All right. Man, I need to start figuring out my weekend now. Hey, no, Adam Wade. Don't tell Adam Wade about this. I'm just sharing this with my inner circle, which is you folks. Oh. Yeah. Danny Boyd says the car's half paid for. Yeah, where are we at? $40? That might be the gas to go get the thing. But yeah, I do appreciate it. Trust me, any dollar amount that goes towards that thing would help out big time. So I do appreciate it though. And I'm like very humbled by you guys doing that because I mean, I don't generally go around asking for cash on this. I just let you guys send whatever you feel is necessary. But yeah, I need a win. I'd like to have something that I have that looks different, it's paid for, runs for a long time, frame's not rusted in half. Because this poor S10, I mean, I got it for $500. Well, technically it was less than that because I bid on the auction at 500, and when I showed up, they couldn't get it in gear, and that's because the tranny had blown up. They had filled it full of water by accident, and the guy's like, "Look, man, the transmission doesn't work. It was listed as it's working. With just $1, it's yours." Like, okay. So that's what I've been driving around ever since. Let's see. 38 Racing says, at least you'll get this money instead of that GoFundMe a few years. Yeah, I don't know whatever happened to that. I don't even remember. That was like Jupiter Mustang Mike or something created a GoFundMe, and I imagine it's probably still on there. But I don't know how to even collect it or how to claim it. I don't even know where that guy's at. BNR Racing, has anyone ever made a stronger aftermarket block for Buick V8? Well, the small block doesn't need one because the small block is like a deep skirted. It's actually like a small version of the FE Ford. It's a deep skirted block, and it's just like the V6 Buick. So you can have cross bolted mains. It'll handle 1,000 horsepower probably pretty easy. And then the 455 though. The 400, 430, and 455 were the weakest big blocks ever made by General Motors because it was the first big block thin wall casting. And they took too much out of it, to be honest with you. They took too much out. You can still race them. The block is inherently flexible because it's so little material in it. And what normally happens is when you wind them up really hard, let's say you get them up over 6,000 RPM, what happens is the block will end up flexing and it'll pinch number 3 main and starve number 7 rod for oil. Or maybe it's number 4 main. Number 4 main. It pinches number 4 main and starves number 7 rod for oil. So TA Performance does have, and right here, this is what Tom Brown is telling you, the Tomahawk block, which is the big block. It's an updated version of the big block Buick and it gets rid of all the inherent problems with the big block Buick, but it is all aluminum. So guys have been buying those and building humongous, because you can, I don't know if you know this, but like your Pontiacs, your B&R likes Pontiacs, they already have a pretty big stroke and a fairly small bore for a big block. The Buick is the opposite end of the spectrum. It has a humongous bore. It's bigger than the 440 Dodge and has a really short stroke, which is kind of contradictory to the thing making so much torque. But when you add in like a 4.5-inch stroke, that takes it out to like 570 cubes or something like that. I've never been able to have the money for anything like that, but custom crank from Crowder will get you like almost net you like 600 cubic inches. The cylinder head you can't flow enough to feed a 600 cubic inch Buick. There isn't a cylinder head available that could work with that. Okay. Buff says $1 car is my favorite. That was my S10 pickup, so I mean I can't beat it. But then I had to come home and put a tranny in it. But I have been driving it for over a year now with 130. Let's see, it was $137 for the transmission and $1 to buy it, so $138. I got a free set of tires from my buddy Stan that just had some sitting around. And I take that back. I had to buy a battery, so there's like another $200. So 338 bucks. That's where I was at. That's what it was cost. That's what it cost me for the S10. So, all right, Clayton's Toolbox. Thank you so much. Since $10 Canadian. Isn't that what the CA means? I'm thinking that's what that is. I'm pretty certain that it's Canadian. But I appreciate it, man. I tell you what, every little bit helps, and I'm gonna I guess I'm gonna have to go get it. And then I'm going to have to talk it up next Wednesday. I don't know. Maybe if I work it out through that guy. I'm supposed to have my daughter this weekend, so I don't know if I can yet. All right. So Tom Brown says, I need to go get a copy of HP Books, How to Hot Rod Your Buick V6. Great book, but on the spendy side. That's all right. I have all the Buick books. I'll buy that one too. I didn't know there was one for How to Hot Rod Your Buick V6. But I'll see if I can find it. Stephen Myrick is in the house for the last 20 minutes. Oh, yeah, we don't have an aftermarket tall deck block. The 455 just has that humongous bore. All right, Dust Devil Garage sent me $5. Thank you so much, Brian. I do appreciate that. Whoa! So make sure to put cool wheels on that Buick. Buy it now. Well, I guess I'm going to have to go wrangle it up because it would be cool to get that Buick and then pretty much have a daily driver that's reliable and I could work on. Let's see. BNR Racing says I like Pontiac 455. Next one I want to build is a 480 cubic inch Pontiac V8. They're a good engine. The Buick and Woltz Pontiac get overlooked so much. Chris Cox sent me $99.99. So Fab Race Mod Repeat, thank you so much, man. That's like the most donated toward this whole thing. This is going to be awesome. I guess I'm going to have to make it happen now for sure. So, man, thank you so much, Chris. That's a really awesome thing. Let's see, BNR says Buick big blocks run strong. Little cash up front, I recall. They're spendy if you just go out and do like everybody else and just buy all the TA parts and just throw it out there. And that's because TA is the only one that can make them. So they literally can name their price. It's not that I'm hating on TA or anything. It's just that when you're the only game in town, you literally have no competition. It used to be Kenny Bell was that way, but they kind of went out of business. They shifted to the blowers. They saw what was happening. The technology was dying, so they went to the blower stuff. And now TA is the only one that makes any Buick parts. There used to be another company called Poston. Poston went out of business in 2000. When was a big economic crash start? 2006. So I think that's when they went out of business. Yeah. Well, Chris Cox says Buick Warbucks. So now I need to go get this thing. BNR says that the Pontiac V8 aluminum blocks went up to 7,000. I'm sure the Tomahawk cost every bit of that. Oh yeah, that's the same thing that Tom Brown says. That the Tomahawk blocks are around there too. Yeah, they're ridiculous expensive. I can't afford to buy one of those. I'll just continue. If I'm going to get an all aluminum block, it's going to be a 215. So that's that's the only one in my price range. For now, I mean, I cut every corner I possibly can. Did I miss something? Fanbase Mod Repeat says it was a good Speed Oasis week. Oh yeah, I already did say that, didn't I say it? I thought I said Fab Race Mod Repeat sent me $99.99, like $100. I appreciate it, brother. I don't think I missed that one, did I? Maybe BNR missed me saying that because I think I said it. Thank you so much, Chris. All right. That's the name. So Mama M3 is saying that I got to name that Buick Century the Warbuck, huh? I think I'm just going to name it a daily driver. That would be nice. So, and Vintage Adventure Drives, dang, hey, I'm back. Well, congratulations, you made it home from work. Now the real fun can begin. Warbuck Buick, huh? And then Mrs. One-Eye Cat sent me $50 because we want to see you do it. It's the No Name Nationals way. Man, you know what? This is amazing tonight. You guys have really been rocking it. I really appreciate you guys doing this. I am going to go get that thing. It looks pretty granny fresh, and now I have no reason to, so I'm committed. You guys pulled the trigger for me. Hopefully I can just sell my S10 and get enough to make up the difference. So, and that's what I'm going to end up trying to do. Let's see. I got one more movie or video file. Oh, that's what I should have done. Never mind. Cancel. Let me pull that thing out of the trash. Okay. Present video file, desktop. Where's that at? Okay, here you go. This is what I was looking forward to here. Okay, that was somehow a video file, but this is my bone stock numbers matching stage 1 455 that it's taken me 7 years of compiling all of my father's stuff from his estate to one engine using factory parts. So yeah, and I'll get it back in the car. So yeah, tough go with that one. Hey, Big Block 402, Stephen Myrick. It's Buick time. Get it done, buddy. Hey, thank you so much. You sent me $19.99. It's $20 pretty much. I'm going to have to go pull the trigger on this Buick Century. So I think that's pretty wicked. The community's all chipping in here to knock the price down on this killer Buick Century that you did all see that it is very fugly, right? But fugly in a good 1970s disco era way. Oh, awesome. Yeah, I was worried that it made me second guess myself that I missed it. I'm like, no, I'm pretty certain I said something. So I do appreciate it, Chris. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Oh, all right. Let's see what else. I had another video. Oh, okay. Here's the other video. And I'm probably going to get copyright strike, but it's okay because I'm not monetized and I don't really care. Oh, wrong one. Present video file. Okay, here it is. So I've never done this before, and I literally did this with a body saw. And then when the body saw was too slow, I took the blade out of my sawzall and cut it down to put it in the body saw. Then I did it with the sawzall blade in the body saw, and I cut the intake manifold off. So that's what I've been working on. Okay, Tom Brown saying, I can't remember the company. I think they're in Minnesota, but they're making a set of big block Buick race heads that flow over 500 CFM. I wonder if that's Bulldog, because Bulldog was making a set like 10 years ago, and I think they went out of business. Here's something interesting, Tom, because I think yours is the GS350 car, right? I talked to Mike Tomaszewski today, and he said that there's a guy in Michigan named Scott Brown that took a TA aluminum 350 head and ported it and got 320 CFM out on the intake side. So there you go. That's some interesting information right there. Yes, Cabbage Patch ugly. Yes, that's right. And it might actually have Xavier, what's his name, signature on the butt of that car. Let's see. Cabbage Patch ugly. Oh. Dust Devil Garage. Wow, everyone wants you to buy the ugliest Buick ever made. I love it. Ugly cars need love too. They do. And you know what is really neat about it is that literally you will never see another one on the road like it. I mean, how many have you seen in your life? I've only seen 2, and I'm in the Buick community like thick. So I think it's funny. Mama N3, that's a 1978 Buick Century. I think it's only made from 1978, maybe 79. I don't think they even sold one in 80 because I think they went to front wheel drive in 80. Oh, you missed the Buick? Okay. All right. No problem, buddy. Everybody was throwing a bunch of money this way, so I'll put the picture up back for you so you can actually see it. I mean, I need if we're gonna scorch everyone's eyes, I gotta scorch everyone's eyes. Okay. This thing is hideous, but it's hideous in an awesome way. All right. You're going to love this. There you go. The only way it got any uglier than this was like, I guess I don't. The back of this car is so hideous. It's just like you literally like the engineer got to the B pillar and just quit. Like just gave up. Like, you know what? You guys have been making me work 60 hours a week for the past 200 months. Watch this shit. You know, literally, I'm just going to draw a straight line to the bumper, and that's the end of the car. Danny Boy says there were pretty many of those Buicks and Oldsmobiles back when they were new. I have never seen the Buicks. I've only seen one Century. Used to be at a gas station. The guy that worked at the gas station drove the car, and I've never seen but that one car. Yes, the Geometry Buick is drawn with. We didn't even use a protractor on this. It was just a right triangle, right? That's what we used to draw this whole car. I used to say about the Malibus, because the Malibus are so square. This is virtually the same body style, but the Malibu was so square. I used to say a 7-year-old child drew that car because it's like, you know, it's just so square, boxy, and simple. This one is almost worse because it's literally got the same square front end, but it is just like the dude fell asleep at the B pillar and just cut the back of the car off. And then someone came in and took the blueprint because they were in such a hurry that they made the car off of this dude as he was narcoleptic and fell asleep on the blueprint. All right. Danny Boyd says, my dad's last car was a light green Cutlass Fastback with a black vinyl top and super stock 2 wheels. Well, I'll see what I can do on a serious budget on this thing. Right now, I'd like to just actually get the car. If it's got 4 decent tires on it, and I'll drive it probably like that. If not, I'll probably take the wheels and tires off my S10 and just put them on here and drive it like that because it has good tires on it. So I don't know. Dean Stevenson says the skateboarders will love it. Yeah, they could ollie off this thing. So yeah, vintage miniature drives. You're right. This thing is an absolute cream puff. It is a grandpa. What back when I was a teenager, they used to call this grandma fresh. Is what they used to call this. It was like your grandma just parked it in the garage, and that's how it sat. Oh, Fab Race Mod Repeats says he's seen 2 of the Buicks and 4 or 5 of the Oldsmobiles. I think the Oldsmobile was a better seller. I think it had a better looking front end on it, and I believe because it had like a similar Cutlass front end on it that it looked better. But this Century, I'm telling you, the front end looks just as plain as the rest of the car. It's like literally got 2 square headlights, a grill opening, and you don't remember any of it because it's just so blah, you know. But it's so, like I said, it's so blah that it just works now. Here it is 30 years later. So Mohawk 62 says fairly slippy, and that's how the slide rule fell. Yeah, the Oldsmobile models were, I guess they were much more plentiful. I do remember them, but the Buicks, I've only seen 2. There, you know, I actually owned probably one of the rarest Buicks, and it was just by dumb luck, by happenstance that I got one. It was a 79 Buick LeSabre Turbo Sport Coupe. So it's a full-size car with a V6 turbo Buick in it, and it was a coupe. It had a pillared door. And it had the same treatment as a Grand National, except the car was brown. It was like literally like turd brown. But it had the grill was painted that flat black, and then flat black around the headlight and taillight bezels. So I thought it was pretty cool. I ended up putting a 350 Buick in that. Yeah, and then you know what? I forgot when you guys said this earlier that the Caddy had this, and I totally forgot that the Cadillac did. And I bet you that's exactly where that body style came from. Was the Cadillac wanted that because it had a different trunk on it. It had like I think that Cadillac, that Seville, I believe had the Continental Tire round kit thing like on the Lincoln Mark 7 and stuff. I'm not sure. Oh, Danny Boyd, you know how rare that is? One of my high school substitute teachers had a 78 to 80 Grand Prix with a V6 and a 3-speed on the floor. when Polito and I do this show every week, I usually lament about the greatness of the San Diego junkyards. And the very first car I found in the San Diego junkyard was a 78 or 79 Turbo Coupe Regal that had the draw-through quadrajet and turbo on a 3.8 liter V6 Buick, but it had the Saginaw 4-speed and manual steering in it. And it was in the junkyard. I probably could have bought the whole thing, but I didn't buy it. I ended up just taking the posi unit out of it because it had a 373 posi in it, which was at the time a 7.5 inch with a posi was like so few and far between. Even the like IROCs didn't come with them. I wish I would have grabbed that car because I've never seen another 4-speed Buick with a turbo V6 ever. And it's not that it would be fast. It wouldn't be any faster. It would be probably slower than the automatic because it wouldn't load the turbo correctly. And then it would blow boost every time you push in the clutch and change the gears. But it just for oddity's sake, I would have loved to have it. Tom Brown says, one of my buddies had a 68 LeSabre 400 for sale. Pretty rough, but all there thinking of getting it. Even has the factory buckets and console like the Wildcats. Dude, buy that sucker up. The 67 and 8 is a beautiful car. If it's a 4-door, they're not as beautiful. The 2 doors, I tell you what, Tom, if you ever want to just, once this divorce is over, if I get to keep my house, you can come down here. I'll find you a nice Southern Buick. You can haul it back up to North Dakota and have something really solid to work on and just use your drivetrains and all those cars. There's a 64 Buick LeSabre 2-door console car right now for $1,500 in Kentucky. Okay. I keep looking at it, but it has no title, and I don't want to fight that. But for your sake, if you want a nice car, that's one you can take home and be proud of. All right. Dean Stevenson says 5.7 Olds diesel, a diesel block for a Joe Mondello 430 Pro Stock. Hopefully they're not talking about this Century because it's keeping the V6 Buick. I don't want to have to wrench on it. But so you can make that 403. That was the only downside of the 403 Oldsmobile was the webbed mains, or what do they call it? Windowed mains. I think the 403 Oldsmobile would have been just like the Mopar 400 and the Ford 400, to where if you put good parts on them, they actually run really good. And the Oldsmobile, if it would have never had the windowed main block, I think it probably would have been a world beater. And I've really considered just getting a windowed main 403 and see if I can make it run like that, because all the stress is technically on the bottom of the main cap. So if the window is up there at the top of the main, does it really matter that much? I don't know. Maybe an RPM. Yeah, you're right. It's the same thing. That was the major manufacturer's engines. The Olds 403, the Ford 400, and then the Mopar 400. Right? That was yeah, Pontiac did that to the 301 as well. That was really it. I mean, those guys were pretty much the 301 with the turbo. I thought was going to be better. What I'd really like to do is I'd like to get that turbo from 38 Racing and put that blow through quadrajet turbo, that suck through quadrajet turbo on a 300 Buick and see what that does. That's really what I'd like to do. Okay. Let's see. All right. Well, that's it for the show tonight, guys. I'm sorry. I've been rambling on here. I've been showing all kinds of stuff off tonight. I really appreciate all the super chats. I guess I'm going to have to be committed to going to get that Buick now. You guys have made my night. Honestly, I literally I didn't know how to take that as those super chats were coming in. So I really appreciate it. Professor P should be back within a week or two. I don't know. He may have to do it again next week, so I'm not sure yet, but I'll know. And if it is just me again next week, I don't think I'm going to let it be that way, because it sure is a lot of talking. Let's see. Oh, you like my show? Well, thanks. I'm not Tom Brown says, what combo works better for a nitro setup? Long stroke, small bore, or big stroke, short bore? I'm going to go with the big stroke, short bore on that one. That's what I think. I don't think it likes long stroke. I think when you gear down like that, when it gears lower for long stroke, that I don't think it can get the rev potential. I think it likes a big bore, short stroke with rev potential. That's why the Hemi always did so well. And if you ever notice, the big block Chevrolet didn't do so good in Top Fuel, and I think it was because it literally had more of a stroke. And if it would have been like maybe a 396, I think it would have actually done better. But oh yeah, 38 Racing says, kept you in it for the full run tonight, Dallas. Yes, you did. Thank you so much, and I appreciate you guys being here. And I will see you guys next week. So thanks for stopping by, and I appreciate everything you've done for me. And